the most darkest times in our modern era here in the United States, if not around the world, on that fateful day 17 years and 2 weeks ago on September 11th. Bernard Kerik, along with the entire entourage of New York City Police Department, the fire officials, EMTs, people from around the country rushed to New York after we were attacked. We all remember vividly that day, Mayor Giuliani and Commissioner Kerik on TV leading the charge, the response, the rescue efforts, and just their whole demeanor on TV, even in this darkest time, really helped America get through that very, very unbelievably difficult time. So having said that, it's been 17 years and 2 weeks since then. He's got a book out, The Grave Above the Grave, that we're going to talk about in just a bit. But first, I would be remiss if I didn't ask him about it. Welcome to the Primetime program, Commissioner Kerik. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to spend a little of it here on the Primetime program.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, listen, is it okay if I call you Bernie?
Yes, it is.
All right, Bernie, thanks. I appreciate that. Listen, Bernie, I want to talk about the nation's security. Your group, the Kerik Group, folks, you can follow along online at thekerikgroup.com, international security consultants. But Bernie, if you will, just even though it's 2 weeks after the tributes and the ceremonies, it's 17 years and 2 weeks later. Can you just, that day that stopped America, every American in their tracks, every American stopped. America stopped that day. How does it resonate with you 17 years and 2 weeks after the fact?
Well, listen, for me and the people that were there, the mayor, the fire commissioner, it's something that we lived with that day, but we live with it in a way every day since. There's not a day goes by that there isn't something relating to 9/11 that I don't think of, I don't hear, I don't smell. It's kind of strange. If I'm walking through New York City and I hear a jet fly overhead, I get an ache in my chest. I'm looking for the plane. Where's the plane? What is it? Where's it coming from? So there's these constant reminders. On that day, when the first plane hit Tower 1, I was actually in my office, but when the second plane slammed through the north side of the tower, I was on the street in front of that building. So when you see that big orange fireball blow out the north side of the building, me and my staff, we were actually waiting for the mayor to arrive, and about 3 minutes before he got there, that plane came through that building, and I was actually on the street because I couldn't get in our command center at 7 World Trade because there were people jumping from the top of 1, and they were landing on Vesey. They were landing in the courtyard between Tower 1 and Tower 2, and they were hitting the overhangs of the buildings, pretty much disintegrating in front of us. And that was what I had to deal with within the first, 15 minutes, 20 minutes after the first plane hit Tower 1.
And Bernie, and through all this now material is falling out of the sky, right? I imagine you can't really tell where stuff is coming from. Am I correct?
Well, listen, when the second plane hit Tower 2, I didn't see the plane. The plane came from the southern end of the building. And I got to be honest, when the building blew out, there was this massive explosion above us. And then it took about 3 or 4 seconds for me to realize that stuff is coming down on top of us. The building, the plane. One of my bodyguards, as we were running up West Broadway, one of my security members was actually hitting the back of the leg with a shaft, a piece of the shaft of the wheel of the plane. So that's how close we were as this stuff was coming down on top of us. And we went behind 7 World Trade and waited for everything to hit the ground. And then we came out, and it was then that I realized we were under attack. I could hear the aviation pilots, the helicopter pilots for the NYPD yelling that a second aircraft had just slammed into Tower 2.
What an unbelievable experience. No, I mean, it's, every American on September 11th, we think about it, but as you pointed out, it's not something you can run away from. You were right there in the middle of it. And then, Bernie, everybody remembers. I have to mention it because you had another book before this book that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, but you had another book called From Jailer to Jailed, where, at one point, all we remember is you being on TV, and like I said, you and Mayor Giuliani really calmed, President Bush to a certain degree, but it was really you and Mayor Giuliani we remember the faces on TV that calmed America and walked her through this unbelievable, horrendous act that occurred. And then, it's like this a spiral of events, and you were beloved around the country. And then, of course, for some reason, I don't know, I guess you got somebody mad at you. I don't really know the circumstances, how you went from beloved to being in somebody's crosshairs. If you want to comment on that, you're more than welcome to. But
well, listen, here's my recommendation to you and your listeners. If somebody you love, your best friend, your boss, if they decide they're going to run for president, take a baseball bat, knock him in the head, knock him back into the senses, and tell him to move on, because they become a target as well as everybody around them, and that's kind of what happened to me.
Wow.
Rudy Giuliani announced he was running for president, and from that point on, I became a target for the government. And I got to be honest. Look, I know what they did to me, and I know why they did it at the time. But I really, what's disturbing today is I'm watching the same exact thing unfold at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and the FBI, with the president, his family, his supporters, his staff, and it's kind of mind-boggling. It's a frightening scenario for anybody that's been through what I've been through. To watch what's going on today should scare the hell out of you, because you come to realize, I'd be one of the first guys to say, the deep state argument is nonsense. But I'm going to be honest. These days, I just keep my mouth shut and agree with you.
Yeah, well, listen, we see what's going on with President Trump. It is amazing that, they say that the times call for certain individuals. You were there on 9/11 along with Mayor Giuliani and thousands of others who supported you all, and were engaged in rescue efforts trying to save people. But here you have President Trump, he's almost by himself, surrounded, and, he's still, to my amazement, he is hanging tough, Bernie. He's not going anywhere. I mean, he almost thrives on it.
I've known him for about 20 years. He was an icon, a real estate icon in New York City. And I do know anything he said he wanted to do in New York, he was going to do it. He didn't care about opposition. He was going to get it done the best way he could, the fastest way he could, the cheapest way he could, and he did it. Everything he wanted to do. So, for people to, look at him and go, wow, I'm really shocked. I'm not shocked. I know the man. I know what he's been through. I will tell you this, though. As I'm listening to you, I'm laughing to myself, because I told some of his family members, I said, when this is over, they should do a study on him for compartmentalization. Because I've been through some hell in my time.
Yes, indeed.
And I had to do, I've had to get through some crazy stuff. The worst terror attack in world history, an 18-square-acre crime scene, 400 first responders killed. Okay, I've been there. Nobody in a position like mine has ever had to deal with. I've had to deal with.
No,
but
you're
this
right.
guy is battling the whole world, and he's still getting stuff done. So it kind of cracks me up.
Well, we have a guy that's on the show. I don't want to take too much time on him, but Dr. Lamero, and he's been on our show for since Trump first announced. He predicted that Trump would win the presidency. He does computer systems modeling, and he said that Trump will he will be victorious. He's gonna. I don't know how he's gonna do it, but Dr. Lamero says he's gonna upend the swamp, and it's going to be a new day in America. But that's a conversation for.
I hope he's right.
Yeah,
I hope he's right.
I'm with you on that. So, Bernie, let me ask you. You just real quick. The other book, From Jail to Jail, is that still available? Can folks get a hold of that if they want
Still
to?
available. It's you can get it on Amazon or your local bookstores, just like this one.
All right. So now, before we get to your current book, very quickly on the state, because you're in the business, you're in the international security consulting business. Your take on the current state of security of the United States of America?
Well, I think it's about 3 or 4 things that I'd look at. First and foremost, on the international front, probably since the Korean War or the World War II, you have a president in the White House that is not political with the Pentagon and basically has given the generals in the Pentagon an order to go kill the enemy. That is, to me, one of the most important things. And it's important to me because I lived in Saudi Arabia for 4 years. I worked for the King of Jordan for 5. I've worked for the Sheikh of Dubai, and I've also been the interim minister of Interior of Iraq. I lived through 9/11. I know the enemy. I know what it's going to take. There's no diplomatic solution. There's no negotiating. They're going to kill us, or we're going to kill them. It's one or the other. I'd much rather be on the killing side. So he's given the generals the authority and the power to go do their job, and in order to go do it, our intelligence capabilities are far better than they've ever been, especially, back in '01, where we're communicating local, state, and federal, along with our allies abroad. But here is our problem.
Okay.
Our problem is Congress. Our problem are senators, governors, and mayors that are encouraging people to come into this country illegally, that are emboldening them, that are giving them voter rights once they get here. They're emboldening these sanctuary cities, and they want open borders. And nobody, I don't care who you are, nobody in this country knows what happens when the wrong people come into this country better than I do, with the wrong intent. And you know what? We're letting people in here when we should not. And the Democratic left or the socialist or these days socialist, communist, whatever they are, the members of Congress that are not doing what they're supposed to do by law, not letting the ICE and the federal authorities enforce the laws that are already in the books. This is dangerous stuff. That's why the president wants the wall. That's why the president wants the military on the border. If they don't fix that problem, we're going to play hell later on down the line.
Well, I want to ask you, obviously we all hear stories, we see, I saw a video the other day where immigrants were coming across the border dressed in camouflage. There's reports that Bangladeshis were coming across the border. Is it so? I don't know, Bernie. We're here in southern New Jersey, just outside of Atlantic City. We have a pretty conservative area, but it's, about 55-45, give or take. But the thing is, we don't really know what, you hear a lot of different things going on. How porous is that border right now, would you say?
It's pretty much wide open. Pretty much wide open. I mean,
wow.
There's only so many border control agents. Everybody has this thing about ICE. ICE does not control the borders. It's the border control. It's the federal agents and the border control that work the borders. But there's only so many agents. Without the wall, without better technology, without agreements with the foreign nations, the other countries, you have drugs coming in, you have violent predators coming in, you have child runners coming in, human traffickers coming in, and you have people from other countries. Look, the president had to fight his tail off to get people to be vetted that were coming in from some of the countries that we fear most. Why is that such a problem? Why would I want somebody coming in this country that I don't know who they really are, where they really come from, what their real intent is? Why would I let them in here? That's insane.
It doesn't make any sense. Nobody would do that. Even the libs in New York City with the brownstones, they wouldn't leave their doors open. You got to buzz in. Everybody's got to get buzzed in everywhere, I don't get it.
Right.
It's just incredible. All right, Bernie, we're running out of real estate. I know your time is extremely valuable. If you want to find out more about Bernie, you check it out online at thekerikgroup.com. We're going to sashay over and talk about his book. He's got a new book out, The Grave Above the Grave. Rick Raymond is the central figure, and it's a fiction, a thriller, and it takes place in New York City. Now, is this a little bit of, I'm going to, Captain Obvious here, Bernie, is this a little bit of Bernie and Rick Raymond?
It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I ran the NYPD. I had 55,000 people that worked for me. There's a bunch of the police commissioner's office in the book. But Rick Raymond, 17 years ago, was a captain in charge of the 1st Precinct where the towers were. His wife was killed on one of the planes. And now, 17 years later, he's the police commissioner. And he runs into a terrorist investigation in New York City that leads him all over the country. And it's made for some riveting reading. And the reviews, everything from Sylvester Stallone to Brad Thor. And my biggest reviewer so far have been the cops who have called me and said it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm pretty happy.
Well, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm looking at some of those stories of suspense, murder, terrorist conspiracy, Kerik, a comic book hero come to life, the New York Times, shots fired central, 26 sergeant. It's just, it's great. It's an exciting book, and it gives like you said, takes folks from New York City around the world with intrigue and thrills. Hey, Bernie, I really appreciate you taking time out and talking with us here. By the way, folks, you can find out more about The Grave Above the Grave. Just go to Amazon.com, and also from Jailer to Jailed is also up there as well. Check out those great books or thekerikgroup.com. Bernie, just one quick question before we segue out on your from Jailer to Jailed. You're on one side of the fence, and then you got to go on the other side of the fence. As somebody was in law enforcement, being on the other side of the fence, were you able to see things like? You see all the NFLers who are kneeling out there for social justice, this, that, and the other thing, prison reform. Is that real? I mean, is there something there?
Well, listen, it's real. It's very real. Criminal justice reform and prison reform is very real and should happen. This is another thing. President Trump has basically said, "You get the bills to my desk." He wants this stuff changed. Now you have the Democrats. That they were trying to do this under Obama for 8 years, couldn't get it done, and now they don't want to. They don't want to play with the president. So, nothing's getting done now again. There are things that have to be changed. The NFL stuff, I completely disagree with their narrative because I know better. I think a lot of them are a bunch of thugs, especially Kaepernick. The whole pig sock thing, it turns my stomach because I was around during the Black Liberation Army and the Black Panther Party when they were assassinating cops in New York, New Jersey, San Francisco, and that's kind of the stuff they were doing. He also donated $25,000 to Joanne Chesimard's charity. She killed a New Jersey state trooper back in 1973. So that guy makes me sick. But, I think there are issues, criminal justice and prison reform issues that has to be dealt with. But we're back to the Congress, an incompetent Congress that can't blow their nose. And who knows if it's ever going to get done.
Well, listen, you're so right on that. But hopefully Trump can continue to shake it up. And after these midterms, maybe he'll get some help. And the cavalry will be on the way, and things will be even better than they are right now. Bernie Kerik, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend a little of it here on the Primetime Show. I really appreciate it, Bernie, and look forward to talking with you down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.